Welcome to the Metal Detecting Podcast, brought to you by XP Metal Detectors. We're digging the plugs and pinpointing the topics you want to hear. Now here's your hosts, Dave Kimball and Grant Hansen.
This show is brought to you by XP Metal Detectors. XP Metal Detectors is a high-end, innovative metal detector company with high-end metal detectors, coils, and pinpointers. For more information, go to xpmetaldetectors.com. For a dealer near you, try a Google search or go to xpteamusa.com. Hello and welcome to the Metal Detecting Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kimball, coming to you from Central Oklahoma, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Grant Hansen, coming to you from New Jersey. How you doing, Grant?
I am doing well, and I'm excited for tonight's show. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Is it getting warmer over there in New Jersey?
It is. It's going to be in the 50s this weekend, I think, but we're still got like residual snow on the ground, but I might try to get out anyway and see what I can do. We'll see.
Nice. We hit 70 here yesterday, and today is like 50, so it's kind of overcast today, though.
Wow, that's crazy. 70 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
I wish.
It was pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you didn't know, this show is our 50th episode of the Metal Detecting Podcast. We've been going strong for about 2 years now, and we finally hit number 50. Isn't that pretty cool?
It's really, really cool. It's a huge milestone. And, you know, I remember all the way back from the beginning where, you know, John DeVille, I think, was the first guest. And then I joined. I was actually a guest at the time on the next show. And then I started co-hosting with you.
Yeah. We've been through a lot. We different hosts. We did even a different change of name. And one of the biggest things that we did, we changed our YouTube platform. We were on, we've always been on Spreaker, but we were also on YouTube on XP Team USA. So we moved it over to our own YouTube channel. It's called Metal Detecting Podcast, and we started all over from scratch and pretty much lost all of our subscribers and everything. So we're trying to still build that back up, and just for to celebrate our 50th show, we're decided to go ahead and give away an XP backpack.
Yeah, it's a super, super cool backpack, the 280. It fits everything. If you have a Deus, it fits everything perfectly. Even if you don't have a Deus or an RX, it's still a great backpack to take with you on long hiking trips or detecting. So we're excited to give that away tonight. No,
yeah, very cool backpack. I got every single one of the coils to fit in that backpack. And I had my Deus and my pinpointer, 2 headphones, and I've got every coil that you can get with the XP Deus, and I had every single one of them in there. Plus, I had room for more. A very good, sturdy, very cool backpack.
Yeah, and what I like about it too is because you can strap it in the front too. It's with all that stuff, it doesn't feel too heavy or that it's dragging you down. It's the weight distribution is very, very even on it, so it's not uncomfortable to put a lot of things in it.
Yeah, you're right. It is well balanced, and Deus is lightweight anyways, but like you said, it's very well balanced. If you want to stack that thing with whatever you want, and you still got room, and you don't have to just have XP Deus or RX to use this backpack. I mean, any machines you can probably utilize this backpack for.
Yep, absolutely. And to enter, all you have to do is go to the YouTube channel that Dave was just talking about. We have a link in the description of the show. Go over there and leave a comment on that YouTube channel and also subscribe. Like you said, we're trying to build up our presence on YouTube again. So it's a really simple way to enter. Just go over there, subscribe, and put in a comment.
That's right. Just look up the Metal Detecting Podcast. Find us on there on YouTube, subscribe, and comment on this show. Well, you may win one.
Yeah, and I just want to say it is for the continental USA only. Apologize if you're listening outside of that area, but the winner will have to be from the continental US.
All right. Today we're talking with James Orefice. He's one of your hunting buddies, right?
He is. James and I started together almost 10 years ago. We get out consistently together. You may have seen him in some of my videos. So I'm very excited to put him in the hot seat tonight.
Yeah. Did he ever wrestle with you?
He did not. He did attend a few shows, though.
I saw that you're going to be actually, when this airs, it would be in the past, but you'd be on a YouTube show talking about wrestling, huh?
Yeah, a friend of mine, he does some retro arcade gaming modifications and news, and he's got a live broadcast on YouTube Thursday nights. So I'm going to be on a guest, and I'll put the link in here for everybody if you're interested. We're going to talk about some retro pro wrestling video games, and there's a resurgence of a new one coming out. I'll talk about some of the cooler experiences that I've had inside and outside of the ring. And because it's me, I'm going to bring metal detecting into the conversation in some way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. What do you think out of our 50th shows? Can you think of any of them that really stand out to you?
Oh, boy, there are just so many real good ones. You know, I like when we have the opportunity to talk with people. You know, I can talk with people metal detecting all day, so I don't want to, dismiss any of the other callers we've had. But when I think about guests that bring a different type of treasure hunting or a different methodology to the table that we can talk about, for instance, Don Price, when he talked about all of our the drones, Steve Arnold with meteorite hunting, guys like that really just give me a different perspective on what we can do as treasure hunters. And it's not just about metal detecting. How about you?
I feel the same way. I really enjoyed Don Price, talking with him and kind of giving a different perspective on the hobby. A lot of us like to use different tools for research, and a lot of us just like other hobbies in general, like me. And I think that kind of combined two of the best worlds there, drones and metal detecting, and it was very interesting to learn. I learned a lot from that one.
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't buy a drone yet, but maybe, maybe soon.
I figured you would have got one for Christmas.
Right.
All right. Well, when we get back, let's talk with James Orefice.
Hey guys, RC here with XP Team USA. If you want to sit back, relax, and just watch some fun and entertaining detecting videos, head on over to YouTube and search for my channel, RC's Dirt Therapy. I promise it will be worth the subscribe.
This segment is brought to you by Omega Mill Pouches, the official digging pouch of XP Team USA. If you're looking for a rugged, hunt-tested, washable pouch, look no further than Omega Mill. Get on eBay and search Omega Mill Pouches. That's OMEGAMILL.
Tonight, we welcome a great detectorist. He has also been Grant's detecting buddy for almost 10 years now. Let's give a warm welcome to James Orefice. How you doing, James? I hope I didn't butcher that.
You did very well, and I'm doing very well, thank you. Just trying to stay warm in this northeast weather.
Yeah, and welcome. It's finally, after all this time, we've got you on our guest, and we've got lots to talk to you about tonight. Are you ready?
I am certainly ready.
All right. So first, let's go back in time. You and Grant were friends growing up. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, so we grew up on opposite sides of town, attended different grade schools, and just so happens that after fourth grade, my school closed down, and so did Grant's, and the town kind of centrally located us into one grammar school, all kids. And I had the honor of ending up in his fifth grade class, and one day he invited me over for a play date after school, and we became fast friends and best friends, and we've been close ever since, and now we're on the new era of detecting buddies as well.
It's funny, our town that we grew up in is probably like 1 square mile, maybe a little bit bigger. But because if you went to different schools, you were on opposite sides of the town. It back then as a kid, it seemed almost like a world away,
Totally. Well, also the nature of our town, too. We grew up in a valley. I grew up on one hillside. You grew up on the other side. And then the middle of our town was kind of like the line of separation.
Right. Yeah. And how great would it have been if we detected back then? I mean, we're talking 80s, 90s, much less competition and probably a lot of great properties.
Yeah, that's always the fantasy question. And our town has so much history, being right near New York City, being called English neighborhood. And, the American Revolution, some of the retreat routes going through our town. So had we only known then and had that love of detecting we do now, it'd be fantastic.
All right. Yeah. So fast forward to adulthood. When and how have you became interested in metal detecting?
Well, I think that, metal detecting is, if you're a detector, it's been in your DNA all along, and it just needed to be sussed out somehow, right? You needed that catalyst to call it forth and realize that, you could be in love with this amazing hobby. But I think for me, that catalyst was probably watching Meteorite Men, I think it's called, on the Science Channel. I think you had Jeff Arnold on your podcast.
Steve Arnold, yes, we did, yep.
Yeah. So I turned on the Science Channel. I saw them, him and his partner, using these metal detectors with these huge coils to find these meteorites. And I was just fascinated instantly. And it kind of like ticked off something in my head. It was like, well, metal detectors aren't just for the beach. And so I bought my young daughter a National Geographic metal detector from some store in the mall. And it's like one of these beep and dig machines. And wouldn't you know it, the very first find in our backyard was a horseshoe. And I was just stunned. There was history in my backyard. Started watching YouTube. This is before most of the popular channels that you see now. I think it was maybe Connecticut Todd, who's an XP user. Saw him detecting in a colonial yard, finding these coins, which I never knew existed. And I was just hooked. At my lunch hours at work, I would watch nothing but detecting videos. And I decided to get my first detector, and the rest is history.
I remember that too, because during your lunchtime, you'd be sending me links to good videos, and I'd be like trying to blow off work so I could watch them at the same time.
Yeah. Tough to balance the hobby and work. We actually have to work.
Yeah. So remind me, I don't have much of a recollection back to high school and like history class. I wasn't really interested in history back then. Were you at all?
Yeah, no. I mean, it was always a subject I gravitated towards. And I particularly remember loving the textbooks that we had, right? The drawings of colonial times and Revolutionary War, of course, no pictures back then, seeing battle scenes and just the different personalities of the American Revolution and the birth of our nation, So Declaration of Independence, all of that. It's just, I remember being fascinated by it. It definitely stuck with me more so than any other eras in our history. And in college, I contemplated majoring in history. I did, and I went into poli-sci, but I always had a hankering for history, no doubt about it.
Has metal detecting increased your interest in history?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean, I have acquired like a vast library of books since starting detecting, reading biographies about the war generals, Arnold, Greene, Knox, local history books, of course, in my research to try and find local sites. I live now in southern New Jersey. I moved from where Grant and I grew up, and I live near outside of Philadelphia, and there was troop movement, across the river into New Jersey and across the state, and the troops walked essentially a couple blocks away from where I now live. It's just made me engrossed in local history, numismatic history, learning about coinage, American coinage, colonial coinage, like the 3-cent piece, its relation to stamps. I mean, that is just fascinating. And it's all been unlocked by detecting and some of the finds that the research that happens after the dig. It's just amazing.
Yeah, the stuff we learn is pretty fascinating. I had no interest, like I said, in history in high school and college. And I want to attribute that to maybe boring teachers and professors and because history is exciting. But yeah, I mean, I've done a complete 180 since detecting. It's just opened it up. Like you said, it's probably been in the DNA and in us all this time, and we just needed something to bring that out.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting how you get interested in all these other stuff with metal detecting. I got interested in dog tags and, like you said, coins and everything else. Now I'm collect coins and like I said, dog tags and tokens and everything. And it's interesting how much you get into other, how much you branch off into everything else,
I've learned much more from my metal detector than I did from a history book. Just the way it is. It's just tangible, and when you're holding it in your hand, you're more inclined to research what it's all about and really absorb that and pay homage to that period that you find it from.
Oh yeah, and that's the fun part about it. You find something and you have no clue of what it is until you do all the research, and then next thing you know, you're an expert.
Right.
Yeah, really, self-appointed expert.
Yeah. So I've told this story before, I'm sure, on our podcast, but I want to hear your side of it. Thinking back to that fifth grade play date that we had, and back then it wasn't called a play date, you just came over, and never talked history, probably never talked adventure, and then we get into adulthood. How did you and I discover that we both wanted to get into metal detecting at the same time, unbeknownst to each other?
Yeah, it's a really bizarre story. Well, as I mentioned, Grant lives in northern New Jersey. I live in southern New Jersey. So to keep up our friendship, we would get together for dinner probably every other month. So I remember it clearly. It was December of 2011, and we were having dinner and just talking about the usual things, work and family and things like that. And I was almost kind of coming out of the closet as a detectivist to Grant because I was embarrassed about the hobby at that phase because I thought it was just kind of awkward, and I was. I detected. I didn't know anyone else that detected. So I go, Grant, I had this old man hobby. You should guess what it is. And I forgot what he guessed. I don't think he guessed detecting. But I said, I detect now. I got a metal detector. And he's like, that's unbelievable. I just told my wife that I wanted a metal detector for Christmas. I've been craving one for a while. And then the conversation went from there. I don't think we stopped talking about detecting since December of 2000.
No, I don't think we have. And I'll tell you, the first thing that came to my mind was metal detecting when you asked. But I said to myself, there's no way in hell that it's metal detecting. So I guess bocce, right? And then you said, no, metal detecting. And then when you said metal detecting, I honestly thought you had previously had a conversation with my wife and she told you, and then you were kind of making fun of me or something. So
yeah, it was just one of these like serendipities. It's one of these things. And it's, we were close before, but it's just brought us closer together just in our literally daily conversations over IM about detecting and what's next and, what we hope to achieve and things like that.
And you're all right. Whenever you're younger and you get into a hobby like metal detecting, it is kind of embarrassing to talk about it because you think that people are, have that perspective of it of an old man on the beach and,
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And matter of fact, Grant was much more, proud of the hobby earlier than I was. I don't know. I guess it was an awkward conversation for people. I think, all the detectorists know when they start talking about detecting to someone who has no clue about it, it's kind of an awkward situation at first. And you're kind of hoping they kind of catch on.
Right.
So, now I'm out there and I'm good to go.
That's what kind of makes door knocking so hard, I think, because you get a lot of questions that are stereotypic of the hobby,
Yeah. From my perspective, when you've done pro wrestling and you've worked a microphone and yelled at fans, I guess nothing else really becomes that daunting.
You should go back to wrestling with a metal detector.
Yeah.
Dave's right, though. You have that sort of like minute to describe what you do and hope that they understand and that they're engaged in what you're saying. So it gets kind of awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what was it like in the beginning, not knowing where to dig and learning all along the way?
Yeah, I think when you first start detecting, you'll detect anywhere. And so you do the usual thing. You tap into your own yard, right? And I was very lucky with some of the finds in my yard, my in-laws' yard, my friend's yard, my friends of friends. Grant and I would get out there in our younger days. It's only 10 years ago, but it's our younger days. 98-degree weather, total humidity in New Jersey, single-digit wind chills in the winter. You were kind of just much more gung-ho and cavalier, and the smallest find was the greatest find. I do kind of treasure those times, and I think back a lot of the things we found, which at that point were really interesting to us, and they still are interesting. It's just that I think when you get older, you become more discerning about the sites you detect on and your finds. So that naivety is kind of changed, and kind of crazy old days when finding just a coin of any nature was a big deal.
Oh, right.
And you get kind of spoiled.
And digging, whenever I first started too, I dug everything and so much. I dug a lot, and I'd got it down to where I could dig super fast too, you know, and then I'd have to go back and empty my pouch a few times and get back. And I don't think I do half of that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you become a little discriminating, and that's probably a bad thing too. So many of my good finds have been terrible signals. But and I remember James getting out the first couple of times. We didn't have pinpointers, and I don't even know if I knew what a pinpointer was at the time. And we would get a signal, we'd dig the hole, the signal would disappear, and then we would just be like, you know, it's funny to look back on.
Yeah, definitely. I do laugh at some of the times we've had, and just some of those 98-degree weather days when we didn't care. We were hiding in the car from a thunderstorm and anxious to get out and detect again. I don't think we're like that anymore.
No, I think they were just like, yeah, it's too cold. There'll be another weekend.
Yeah, some people will be like, pinpointer? Oh, you mean one of them girly sticks?
Well, I'll tell you, when you're on a private property, like somebody's front lawn or your back lawn, you know, you don't have the luxury of being on a farm field where you can just keep digging and expanding the hole. You want to be really neat and precise. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but so what was that turning point for you, James? Like when you said, okay, this is a passion now, I'm going to be more vocal about it. Do you remember when that happened, or it just came to you?
It happened very early on. I was instantaneously hooked because, as I said, I started in my yard and I found what I found with that beginner's detector. I ended up buying another beginner detector, and I found musket balls in my backyard. I found a colonial coin in my front yard. 1961 built house, but of course there was farm fields back then right outside of Philadelphia. So instant hooked just based on what I was finding. It's just I was fascinated, and I would spend much more time than my wife would have liked in a room on the computer looking things up, trying to learn, looking up, detecting, and listen, and just tapping into forums just to learn more. So it was instantaneous. I don't remember being sort of wishy-washy about it. I was all in at once.
Oh yeah. So I hear you've been on a cat bus streak. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So it's more of dumb luck than a streak, I think. But I had found 2 cat bus coins earlier in my detecting career, and obviously I was fascinated with them. I loved them. Loved early U.S. silver. But last November, Grant and I were on a new permission, a horse farm local to me, and the soil there was really sandy, and I dug a pristine cat bus dime, and it was great to find one again. Very next week, we were at a farm field, Grant, myself, and Donnie Bailey, and I found a half dime, and that was exciting, of course, and I couldn't believe 2 weeks in a row. Great luck. Well, the next outing after that, same field, another bus dime, and Grant has it on video. He was happy for me, but I could tell he was mad. He was going to kill me. There's 3 outings in a row.
Right. Well, it's funny. Well, the first day, I didn't realize I was walking around with about an ounce of gold in my pocket. I didn't discover that till later. But I was pulling up mostly, can slaw and other miscellaneous stuff. Meanwhile, you had a real that was bent in half. You had some other good dimes, things, and then the cat buzz. I'm like, oh my God! You kind of start to think, what am I doing wrong here? But no, always happy to find stuff.
Yeah, and after that third cat bus dime, the next outing I did not find one, but then the week after that, I was out at a very heavily hit park in Pennsylvania with another XP user, John Nottage, and the days sniffed out a cat bus dime on my second dig, and so that made, I think it was 4 out of 5 outings from November through January, just finding cat bus coinage. It was unbelievable, and again, it was dumb luck, but hey, the days found them. So.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I hear you're really good at finding permissions to seek, finding out who the landowners are and trying to, and tying the property to local history. What's your approach and what tools do you use for all this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have to say Grant and I are kind of like, we're a 2-headed monster. Grant is the face of permissions in our detecting relationship. He's the actual door knocker. I have something against rejection, right? But so I'm on the research side, and I do use the usual types of things, your historic aerials, your Google Earth, even Zillow, whatever's at our fingertips. But I do have an app called Hunt Stand, which I love. Tells you the owner's name, who paid the last taxes on the property, the acreage, shows the borders. And one thing, it's kind of giving away a secret here, especially locally in New Jersey, but one thing that's been very helpful is a site called New Jersey Parcels. And basically, if you have a permission, you can look up that person, and even if they have an interesting last name, whether there's not going to be many of that person in the state or in your county, it'll tell you relatives who own land as well. And that was one of our last permissions, where I found a cousin of a current permission, so that person that we had the first permission with could give us an introduction to huge acreage, and we still haven't exhausted finding there. So it's just a combination of things, and knowing how to search on Google, how to really get the best results, I think, as well. I do not go to libraries and look at plat maps and stuff like that, or town halls and things like that. Everything I do is from my own, PC in front of me, but I've been kind of successful, I have to say. But Grant's really, he carries out the permissions. He's the face, he's the door knocker, and he has the charm. So works out quite well.
Well, I think it's a good partnership because, like you said, we kind of split the effort, and you point me where to go, and I'll talk to anybody, or I'll write them a letter and send them a text, and try to figure out how many texts do I send or emails without being pesky. And but no, so far it's working.
Yeah. And actually, I forgot, LiDAR is starting to come about in the U.S. too. So tap into that and look in farm fields and see where there might have been a dwelling. So it's all great stuff.
Yeah. Dave, do you have LiDAR out in Oklahoma? Has it reached that way?
I looked into it a little bit before, and it was not. And but I have heard that it has come up recently, so I haven't got back in there and checked it out too deep yet. But hopefully it is. I'm not sure if it was just it was somebody from out of state saying that I should have it, but I just haven't got back into it that deep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's kind of like a technique. You have to know what to look for. Just accessing the map isn't enough. Like, you have to really, I think there's, especially the guys in New England, they know what they're looking for, whereas I might just see a dot, right? So
yeah.
I think that's emerging technology here in the States, and it's going to be a detector's best friend before long, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of videos too on it. I know they found ruins and all kinds of crazy stuff using LiDAR, and I'm sure there's some videos out there kind of explaining it more into detail.
Yeah, I mean, Mayan history is being rewritten thanks to LiDAR. I mean, they're just discovering things left and right down there.
Yeah, taking all the foliage away from the jungles and showing where the pyramids were and things like that. It's revolutionary to archaeologists.
So once we get the permission, what is your approach in either conversing with the landowner, having that good relationship? How do you treat them so that you can get an invite back?
I think the number one thing is just establishing trust. And there's many ways to do that. It's not just one thing, but it's just having respect for their property, number one. Asking them questions, even simple questions like, where's the best place to park? Where will I be out of your way? And just, showing them common courtesy. Also getting to know them, as a person, because I think it's not just the relationship to the land, it's a relationship to the person, which can breed other relationships as well, future opportunities. Of course, upholding the etiquette of the hobby, filling the holes, taking away the garbage, and just expressing thanks to them. To be honest with you, I usually can't thank them enough. But also, and I think I'm in the minority in this, I really do love giving fines back to the homeowners, property owners, and I even will go so far as to make a display, because I honestly think that that's goodwill for the hobby, and that sometimes some of those artifacts belong with the property if it's historic, and it usually pays dividends where they really enjoy that, and they start calling people they know, so it has its side benefits as well. But I just believe that sometimes the fine should be given back to the homeowners if they show interest. I mean, how many large cents can I own? It means a lot more to them than to me. So that's just the way I approach things.
It is funny though, because right before I'll go knock on a door or we're composing an email or something, James will be like, yeah, tell them, we'll give them everything we find, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, slow down. Let's feel them out, see what they want. Happy to make a display.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah. So we talked about the cap busts, but what would you say is your best find to date?
Best find, that's a loaded question. That's a tough one. I'd have to say just the Spanish cobs that I've found, because they're so hard to find because they're so small, and you have to be on an early site to find a cob. You're not just going to find a cob randomly here or there. It really has to be a noted early site for them to turn up. I've been fortunate to find two. My favorite one is my oldest one, which is a King Philip IV Mexico City mint, and the date range for it is 1620 to 1655. It's my oldest U.S. find. So that's definitely special to me. But I think sometimes the best find is the most meaningful find, and really it was the 1723 Woods Hibernian I found in the front yard of my house, because my house was built in 1961. I was a beginner detectorist, did not expect it at all, and it came up. I thought it was a crusty quarter, and it just kind of changed the trajectory of my interest in the hobby, like I said, from the very beginning. And it was just inches from my driveway, and after that find, and I exhausted my front yard, I expanded my driveway. I would have never found it. So those two really hold a place in my heart as my best finds.
The cob is still number one on my bucket list. And you have how many?
I have two, and actually they were found in two different properties but adjoining fields, so it was the same area. So it's not like I found another early site as well. I found two in the same old area.
And we'll be right back with James Orefice. If you are in the market for a new pinpointer, then check out XP's MI6 pinpointer. Waterproof up to 6 meters, 2 audio modes, picture pulse, 3 levels of sensitivity, rechargeable lithium battery, 7 programs to choose from, 7th program being connectivity to your machine, allowing 50 levels of sensitivity and recovery mode for your MI6. For those on a budget, check out the MI4 pinpointer with all the same options except for connectivity. So find an MI6 or an MI4 pinpointer through a dealer near you.
Hi, this is Dave D.
Hi, this is Sonia.
R.C. Dunn.
This is Alan. We're the Minnesota Beach Boys.
This is David Kimball.
This is Grant Hansen.
Lynn Quelland.
Cameron Macer.
Pete Sorrell.
And we are
XP Team USA.
You're listening to the Metal Detecting Podcast.
And we're back with James Orefice. So let's talk preservation, something you are passionate about. What's your philosophy on preservation?
Yeah, I mean, I think I spoke a little bit about it. I don't know, my barometer for preservation is a little higher in terms of, like, to me, the height of the hobby would be giving back and leaving a legacy with what you find. I enjoy being out there. Sure, I'd love to own things and treasure things, and I do. I have a great collection of things. But if I can leave a legacy with a property, I just really enjoy that. And, I think on that subject, I really do think that we can be great assets to archaeologists. I wish archaeologists and archaeology would embrace detectorists and you just understand what we can do, and just to tell the entire story of a property. Each find is it's kind of like a passage, and you have to string them together to get the whole story. So it's very important to me. Grant has donated finds to various museums. I've never done that because I haven't had a museum-worthy find that I know of to date, but I really hope to do that. I think that's just an achievement in the hobby if you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you actually might have something that's museum quality. Tell us about the rare Chinese Association medal you found recently, and what are you looking to do with it?
Yeah, that was the last time we were out, Grant, and towards the end of the day, I found this hand-sized medallion, and at first I thought it was a religious medallion, but a few finger wipes, I saw an acronym on it. It was CERA. Looked it up when I got home, and it's a Chinese organization that was started, I believe, in British Columbia in 1899, and my first Google search on it brought up the fact that one was found during an excavation and donated to a museum. So that instantly got me thinking, like, maybe my find could go to a Chinese American museum. So they can appreciate it and get more out of it, much more than I can. It's part of the heritage. And so I have not yet, but I will be soliciting offers to museums to say, hey, do you want this? I would love you to have it in your collection. So that would be my first donation, and that would be, a great moment for me.
So you are a long user of the AT Pro, but for the past few months now, you have been using the XP Deus. How was the transition from one detector to the other?
It was so much more seamless than I thought it would be. And of course, I was very lucky to have Grant as my mentor. Grant's been using the Deus for, I don't know what, Grant, 7-8 years. I don't even know what. But, he's gotten an expertise with it. And so he was very patient with me before I got it, asking questions left, right, and center. And also, I've been watching Gary Blackwell's Skill School videos long before I got the Deus. So I kind of felt primed to go, when it finally arrived. And it was ironic that when I ordered it, because of the pandemic, it was delayed. And so I was just counting down the days till I got it. When I did, instantly was finding good finds, just simply because I did the research ahead of time. I've been detecting for a long time, so, detectors are different, but you kind of know what it's telling you. There's low tones, there's high tones, and in the middle. And I haven't turned back. I haven't looked back at all. I loved the detector before that I used, but I'm just sold on the Deus, so can't wait to continue to learn, get better at it.
What are the specifics that you like about it? Like, is it the weight? Is it the programs? What do you feel most akin to?
Yeah, all of the above. Instantly, you notice the lightweight. The AT Pro that I used is relatively lightweight, but this took it to a whole new level. And not only the lightweight, but at the same time, the build quality is amazing. The feel of it is amazing. And I feel like I'm holding the latest technology. And I feel like I've arrived. It's just a great detector. It's not for the beginner, I don't think. There are the RXs out there and others, but I think it's just, if you want to find things on sites that maybe have eluded other detectors and intermediate detectors, it's the detector for you. It's updatable. It has the latest tech. And like you were saying with programs, just customizing it to any location. Since I got Deus in July, I've been to the Salt Beach. I've been in Virginia, which is notorious. I've been to New Jersey farm fields, irony home sites, and all it takes is simple tweaks to customize it for that site. And so it's kind of like, a few detectors in one. And like I said, I'm not looking back. I'm just anxiously trying to learn more about it and become more discerning with the finds and what's a good find, what's a good signal, what's not. And also the telescoping nature of it. It's so transportable, fits easily in my trunk, and it's just a well thought out product.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So do you feel like your finds have multiplied or have improved since you got your Deus?
There's no doubt a correlation between better finds in just the months I've had it. I had that cap bust streak, and those half dimes are really tough to find, especially when they're at some depth. But I had learned enough, and the Deus was telling me to dig them, and I've been fortunate to find. Grant mentioned a one-ray owl that was folded in half. That's not an easy signal when it's folded. And, New Jersey copper, lots of toasted coppers in farm fields at depth, and buttons of all sorts, seals and musket balls. And so it's just taken it to a whole new level. And I'm just very excited to get back out with it. And like I keep saying, just learning more about it, because it's definitely advanced. And once you ride the wave of learning it, the finds are just going to continue to increase. I just know it.
Yeah, and I think too, with all the advancements and all the tweaks you can make, I think you can get a little too trigger happy with that. I like to find something I like and tweak it as necessary, but not to go overboard, because that could just get to you mentally too. So once you settle on a program that you like, just tweak it minimally.
Yeah.
And really, the way I get my programs is saying, Grant, what should I do now?
Yeah. What I like about it is I'm a tech guy, and if it was just one program or one thing, you're going to do minimum stuff, I'd probably be eager to get a new machine in a few years later so I can learn something new and keep learning. But with a Deus, it's like you don't have to use all that stuff, but you could slowly change as you grow with the machine, and you can slowly learn with it. So it never really gets old.
Totally agree.
So you'll be hitting the road down to Digstock Mini next weekend. Are you pretty excited for that trip?
Yeah, I'm extremely excited. Just when it was first announced, when Pete Sorrell, I think he was on your show initially and just recently, and he, talks about the history, just the broad history there from Native American, colonial, Civil War era and beyond. And so it just piqued my interest so much, and just the amount of acreage, the low number of detectorists on that acreage, just to forecast for some good finds. And I think it's just celebration of the hobby of wanting to find things. He's welcoming of magnet fishing, which I have a magnet. I'll be taking it down there, and I'll be road tripping with my friend John Nottage, and every day we're counting down the days, and just so excited for it.
Is there like one thing in particular that you're hoping to experience there, like a great find or something different?
Well, definitely the magnet fishing. It's going to be my inaugural attempt at magnet fishing. And they have the Tar River, I think it's called there. So it goes right through the property. So I'll be casting my magnet there, seeing what I can find. But in terms of detecting, it would be so cool to find something local, like a North Carolina button of some sort, I think, just to tie it to local history and maybe some residents who were there who might have served, things like that. Obviously, I'm huge on colonial finds, so that's what I'll be trying to home in on. But I just think this property sounds like it could quite possibly give anything someone wanted could possibly be there. So, like I said, I'm chomping at the bit to get down there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. That's awesome. So have you detected in any other states other than New Jersey?
Yeah. Like others, I keep a sort of a map where I pin the new states where I've detected. Obviously, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maryland, Virginia. So basically Northeast and New England is where I've been fortunate enough to detect. And if I ever get an offer or an opportunity, I jump at the chance. I went down to Maryland for the day and driven back up just to detect. And it's just, when you love the hobby and you love traveling and you put the two together, there's no place too far that you'll go.
And speaking of no place too far, do you think we're going to make it across the pond this year? I know our plans got messed up last year because of the pandemic.
Grant, I really feel like this fall we will be on a flight to the UK. And I really do. My hopes are high for it. Obviously, they need to open up there, and we need to loosen the chains here. And I know that Bob is riding on the next couple of months. Being optimistic, maybe. And if not, then next spring. But I can't wait to get back there. I mean, I think about it weekly, if not daily.
So I've heard you've detected in England before. How was that trip, and what did you find?
Well, it was the trip of a lifetime. It really was. If you're a detectorist in the U.S., it doesn't get any better. It really doesn't get any better. And Grant had been there before. I was lucky enough in 2016 to join him, and my brother came along, and we went on a group dig, which I guess they call rallies there, in an area called the Cotswolds, and it's kind of near the area where Shakespeare was from, Stratford-upon-Avon. And the fields were located near the Fosse Way, which is a Roman road that went almost the full length of England, so we knew the history was going to be great. We stayed at a 1500s inn, and that night when we got there, the inn owners allowed us to detect on their property. They just so happened to have the ruins of a medieval castle on the property. That was roped off and off limits, which was too bad, but I understand. But we started detecting there, and one of my first finds in the UK was a 1400s French jetton, and I treasure it to this day. It's gorgeous. It's got a dolphin on it. It looks like a dragon. It's like a mean dolphin, and it's in pristine shape. But then the next day on the group dig, the next 2 days, all of us found much of the same Roman coins hammered. I found a coin weight which was on the surface of the ground, and it goes back to the 1400s. That was crazy. Part of a Saxon buckle, half of a Roman brooch. I have a display, a full, huge display of that hunt with the map from the rally on it, and it looks amazing. And I often will, it's in my basement, I often will creep down in my basement, just take it out and just look at everything because it's so fascinating to me.
Yeah. That was a great trip too, because, a lot of people at the rallies in England camp, and I've camped, and it's not my favorite thing to do, but when in Rome, so to speak. But we found this bed and breakfast that was walking distance to the rally property. And, I started my emails to the owners in advance, telling them what we were being out there for, trying to make it work. And it did work out. They did give us permission to search their property. So that was a thrill. So with all of these great finds in your pouch, we've talked about your cat busts, the cobs, the Chinese medallion. What is number one on your bucket list right now?
Well, interesting. It's not a coin, which I think is most people's choice, but my white whale is the Revolutionary War button. Like I've said all along, I'm fascinated by the Rev War, colonial times, and so I have not gotten my coil over a Rev War button, at least that I know of. I've found some pewter buttons. I can't tell what was on them, but that's certainly number one. I don't care what regiment, I don't care what side, doesn't matter to me. I just want to find one from the war itself. And of course, the gold coin. I know that's cliche, but I think it's just so amazing to see gold in the hole. But if it comes down to a coin that's U.S. based, ever since I started detecting, I've been obsessed with the bar cent, because on one side it has the USA, which mimics the continental button of the Rev War. On the other side, it just has plain bars going across, and it's super rare. So I have this sort of fantasy of finding a bar cent one day. Probably never happened, but
maybe one of the toasted ones we have is probably a bar cent.
Maybe.
I got to ask you this. I ask everybody this. I want your opinion now. So if you were ever given a one-day pass to metal detect anywhere in the U.S. that's always been off limits to metal detecting, where would you hunt?
Wow. Another loaded question. Oh, wow. I would say instantaneously, definitely Mount Vernon, George Washington's home, epitome of American history. If you find something colonial there, you know that it's tied to George Washington. So to me, it wouldn't get any better than that. Just detecting there, just give me a day, let me wander around. I know there's been a lot of archaeology there. I don't know if there's anything left, but that's it. Mount Vernon, no question about it.
Oh yeah, that sounds pretty awesome.
It would be pretty, yeah. Well, James, we could sit here and talk to you, I'm sure, for another few hours, and you and I talk just about daily on this stuff, but we really appreciate you coming on our show, and it's going to be our 50th show, so a big milestone, so thanks for coming on.
Always been a big fan, and it's an honor to be on, so thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, and it was great talking to you. It was great to meet you, and it's very interesting stuff that you had to say, and I know you have it pretty good hunting there with Grant. He's always finding a lot of coppers and a lot of cool stuff, and it sounds like you are too. So I really need to get up there sometime.
Yeah, you got to make a road trip out east.
All right, it's great having you, and we'd love to have you back again sometime.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, James. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
We'll see.
Check us out online at xpteamusa.com.
All right, we're back, and that was James Orefice, a very interesting guy to talk to.
Yeah, I talk to James all the time about metal detecting, and I was still excited to talk to him some more. So, and I probably asked him some questions that I haven't before, so I was really glad to hear his perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how both of y'all got into the hobby kind of at the same time with the same interest in mind.
It was very strange. I still think back to that day, and I honestly did. Like I said, I thought he was making fun of me, that he talked to my wife and he was bringing this up, because I thought I didn't know anyone else in the world who was a metal detectorist. I didn't know the different types of beach and cellar holes and fields. I just knew deep in my heart this was something I wanted to do. And to find out that he wanted to do it at the same time, it was just blew my mind.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so everybody, don't forget, we got the contest for the 280 XP backpack, and in order to win, all you got to do is go on YouTube and find the Metal Detecting Podcast, and make sure it's the Metal Detecting Podcast. There's a few out there that are similar in name. We'll you should see Grant and my ugly face on the cover there. Just give it a subscribe and get on this episode and mention that you subscribed and how much you want that backpack, and you will be entered. And on our next show, March 12th, we will announce the winner, and good luck to everybody.
Yeah, good luck. It's going to be a very lucky winner who gets that, so I'm very excited for that person.
All right.
Just a reminder to everybody, check us out on Facebook. Just search for XP Team USA. We're on YouTube. Just search for XP Team USA. A few of us have our own channels as well where we produce videos. On the XP Team USA channel right now, Andrew Benson has some great tips and programs for gold hunting. So if you ever have the opportunity to get out there and search for some nuggets, definitely give those videos a watch.
Oh, yeah. And he's the one you want to listen to, too, with something like that. That guy's got a lot of gold in his belt.
Yeah. I don't live in the right area, but I suppose I shouldn't complain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, like you said, check out Grant Hansen's videos on YouTube and on TikTok. And Sonia has even got a TikTok. Did you see Sonia's TikTok lately?
Yeah, Sonia's on TikTok, and she's been pretty prolific the past week. So I gotta do some catching up with her. Make sure she's not outpacing me.
Yeah, she's doing a great job. And look for everybody else. I believe Pete Sorrell's got one now. Cameron Macer has got one, I believe. Cameron's got some good videos on YouTube also. Yeah,
he's got some great ones. He's putting out some short ones, just some tips, some longer ones. So definitely check his out, as well as, of course, Gary Blackwell with his Metal Detecting Skills School and XP Metal Detectors channel. He's got some recent ones on the ORX settings. So really good stuff.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, we will be back March 12th, and we'll be announcing the winner. So good luck, and we will see everybody then.
Take care.
Get that permission, put the coil to the soil, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Metal Detecting Podcast, brought to you by XP Metal Detectors.